Howdy, beautiful Bart here, and welcome. This is just going to finish up from where we left off from the last live stream for the UE4 basics. And again, this series was just for a few people that I personally know that are wanting to understand what goes on behind the scenes and actually the stuff involved in making a game. So what I'm doing is just creating a series, getting them from start to finish, and working through some of the progression of what goes on to actually put together a game and doing things and how each individual portion of it has to fit all together and make everything work. So to just go ahead and pick up from there and going back into your Epic Games launcher, since we've already created our project, we've saved it, and we're going to pick up and go from there. You can go to your library tab and then find your getting started, and you'll go ahead and click on that and let it start loading. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this off screen. So we go back into our project, and the first thing we notice is it goes back to that original map that we first created. So if you want to change that, we can actually come over to our edit project settings, and we can pick our default map that we started with, which was that one with the little house and the pane panel and that kind of stuff. So we can go over to our maps and modes, select it under project, and our game mode, let's go ahead and select third person game mode. And in our selected game mode, we have Redman PC is already selected, and that's fine, we can keep it there. Then we'll look at this, the editor startup map. We can grab the drop down right here. You can see we have a bunch of them in here, and what we actually want to do is we were doing the arena map. For now, we'll go ahead and start that, and we'll do that as well for the game default map. We can change these as we go, but that's just going to go ahead and every time we load up our project right now, it's going to go to that. And we can go ahead and close it, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the maps folder, go to arena map, and this is where we are, and this is where we left off, and hit play. And see, we set it up to have no mouse cursor bug. We've got the background sound playing some wind and birds and that kind of stuff. We have our pain panel inflicting a little bit of pain to us. We have health regeneration and our cheesy little house with weird pinkish purple light. So okay, we can jump, we can walk around, we can do some basic things, but we can take damage, but we really can't do anything else. So assume first thing is, as you're running around, you can spin around and check out your character. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape, and I would assume the first feature I want to go ahead and work on is, let's change it to where we can switch to a first person character and be able to cycle back and forth between the two views. Doesn't sound that complicated, right? So we'll go into our blueprints folder, and even though we're using Redman, we're not going to edit in him. We're going to edit in the player base. So we'll open up that one. And this was our event tick for our health stuff. I'm going to drag this over just a little bit. I'm going to grab these guys, all of that, and I'm going to right click on it and collapse node, and I'm going to call this my health junk. So we know what all that is, and since we know that we're going to probably add more stuff later on from our event tick, I'm going to go back into it, and I'm going to clean it up by moving that. Not necessary, but at the last set node, or from this part right over here, we can connect the executables to the output and be able to continue past there. I would probably end up running this off of a sequence node. Hit compile and save. So if we actually put anything else in here, we'll want to put a sequence node so that we're not really going to push past there, because that's going to be part of a looping system. So it's best to probably not have that pin. So let's actually go ahead and start setting up the next part. And we know for our begin play, we've gone ahead and set up our widget. So this one, we can go ahead and do the same thing. We can collapse our node, and we're going to call this our HUD widget, and then quickly go into it, connect our executable to the output pin, go back to our event graph, compile, and save, and just neaten that up just a hair. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and go to project, or edit up here, go to our project settings. We want to create some more inputs. And so we want to look at our input here and our action mapping. All we have is jump and reset VR. Well, I've already removed reset VR because we're not using it, so we can actually just rename this one. And I'm going to call this one view swap. And then I'm going to change its binding from R to the keyboard V as in Victor. V as in view. Okay, so now I'm going to add one more, and I'm going to call this primary attack, and with that I'm actually going to make that bind to the left mouse button, and we'll use that here shortly. So we can now go ahead and close that. There's no save button to worry about. Alright, so now we want to create a custom event, so to speak, and we can just right click and start typing in view swap. That's what we just created. And this is its own executable pin, so we can come in here and just get ready for it. The first thing I want to do is I want to create a flip-flop, and my horrible joke about stylish footwear. Okay, so with that flip-flop, what that does is means whenever I press the V key once, it's going to perform action A. When I hit it again, it's going to perform action B. You can tell it to work off of the release or off of the push. So when you push the button, it's going to do it, or when you let go of the button, it's going to do it. But it's not really going to matter at this point. So what we need to do to be able to change our camera around is a couple things, and well, we don't have a camera yet. So if we look at our viewport, we look at we got a follow camera and a camera boom. We can keep those, but I want to click on the mesh and I want to add a component. So left clicking on the mesh is going to tell us whatever we add is going to be now attached to that mesh. So I'm going to add component and just type in camera. And if you're picking up any noise, there's some construction going on next door, and they decided they're going to be noisy. So I'm just going to call this FPS camera. And now with this FPS camera, there's going to be a couple things we need to do. And first we come over to our details panel, scroll down, and we're going to have to turn off auto activate. That can cause some confusion on the camera stuff, so you're not confusing the engine. Only yourself. So, but with that, since we have it attached to the mesh, we need to tell it to attach to the head, because having a camera looking at one of our feet isn't really going to work all that much. So click on the magnifying glass, and you can either type in head or you can scroll down the list until you find head. Yeah, no jokes, please. Well, you can joke about that because that camera looks awesome, because we always need a camera looking at our chin, right? So I'm going to hit compile and save. Then I'm going to click on the arrow to the left of perspective and uncheck real time. It's going to stop him from moving around so we can actually get the camera lined up the way we want. Then first thing we want to do is go ahead and go to our rotate and kind of move around so you can get a good angle on it. Rotate it up 90, rotate it around 90, and probably going to forget my usual, which is 25 is a little high. Let's go actually 10 by 25 I think will be good for where we are. That's going to put the camera more or less about where the eyes are. Right now it looks a little low. You can always grab your transform and move the camera to where you like it. That's going to be good enough for right now. So if you want, you can go ahead and turn on your real time. You can see that he's going to move around. The camera's going to wiggle with him too. So another thing we want to do is we've got some options over here, and one of the ones that we want to use is pawn control rotation. And I'm going to show you why all these things are needed. And I'll go ahead and compile and save. And if we hit play, okay, we can see around here, this is our view. So let's go ahead and activate some of the function of it so we can see what's happening before we do the rest of it. So the first thing we want to do when we hit the V key now is we want to come off from the A line and deactivate the camera that we are normally looking at, which is the follow camera. So we're going to want to deactivate the follow camera, and from there, I'm just got to be neat here. After we deactivate that camera, we need to go ahead and tell it to activate the FPS camera. So that's going to turn off the camera we don't need and turn on the one that we do need. And now when we hit the V key again, we need to do the opposite. So we need to deactivate the FPS camera, and then we need to activate the follow camera. And I'll take a second here to go ahead and clean these guys up. And again, trying to stay neat whenever you're creating things allows you to come back through and follow it all later. Now, I know that we need more, but I'm going to show you why we need more. And now if we go into it and play normal mode, we can spin around, we can see our character, hit the V key, we go to our first person camera, but we have no control. We can't move the mouse and move the camera or the view or anything. And if we try to run, well, that's just really weird. So yeah, let's go back into our player base and click on our FPS camera, and we're wanting to select use pawn control rotation. Now we also need to do more again, but I'm going to show you why we need more. So again, we're going to go back into it. Everything's fine. We can pan around, hit the V key. Now we're seeing it's not bobbling. I can look down, see my feet and other bits, but I can also look around and see my face. So it's not quite there, but we're almost. But to show you that yes, whenever you hit the V key, it works. Hit a V key again, you go back to your original view. So what we're going to have to do is from this point, when we deactivate and activate the first person view, we're going to need to do one more feature. And that feature is going to be to use the controller rotation yaw. If I activate it right now and hit compile and save, and this is not how I want it to work. So now, whenever I move my mouse around, it moves my entire character around, and I'm not a fan of how that looks. And then when I hit V key, it works the way it should. So this is how we want it to be in first person view, but not necessarily in third person view. So we can do that pretty easy. Yeah, I probably should have posted a link to it. Yeah, I just mentioned it here to everyone. Most people already have that information. If anybody wants to grab the link directly to it, I can't see it while I'm actually streaming on the window that I've got up. So if anybody wants to grab a link, it's nice that my boy Vertus is checking me out here. So I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to turn off use controller rotation yaw, and I'm going to manually add it in over here by typing in rotation, and we want to set use controller rotation yaw, and we're going to put it here and control C, control V, put another copy of it here because we want to flip-flop around with it. So here we want to turn it on, and here we want to turn it off. So to look how that's going to work, so now when we hit play, we can move around, we can see our character, everything's good. Hit V, we can see our feed, we can move around, everything's good this way. Hit V and go back. So now we have a view changer, but let's go ahead and create a crosshair. And there's a lot of really good crosshairs you can download, but if you want to be cheap or lazy or whatever else, or just want to just make a temporary one, we can go ahead and save all really quickly and make sure everything's saved. Now again, we're doing all of our work to our player base, and it's working directly on our red man that we created, so that whatever we create for player base, red man and any child actors from the player base, they're automatically going to work. And the that's the good thing. So you can make multiple different versions. You can make boss characters, things of that nature as well. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and move into creating a temporary crosshair. So I'm going to come to my UI and my widgets folder, and I'm going to create a user interface and a widget blueprint. I'm going to call this my crosshair _W. So again, later, come in handy for looking at files. We want to know where our crosshair is. So I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to make a cheesy quick crosshair that's just a vertical and horizontal line. And you could do that by, I don't know, just grab your image, drag two of them into the scene, and you can get as creative as you want to, or you can create one in Photoshop or other software and then just import it. But we're just going to show you how to make I'm just going to show you how to make a cheap and cheesy one. So I'm going to grab this guy, and before I anchor it, I'm just going to go ahead and create the dimensions that I want. And the dimensions that I want is not going to be 100, so let's do 5 by 40, and we'll do the other one just the opposite, and that's going to be 40 by 5. Now that we've got our dimensions, we can actually go ahead and grab the first one, anchor it to the center, and if we were to change our X and Y position now to 0 and 0, it's not going to be dead center. As you scroll in here, you see it's offset to the right and offset low. So you want to grab half of your measurements. Your X size is 5, so half of that will be -2.5. I know that doesn't make sense, but trust me, it's going to move it in the correct direction. And then the Y position is going to be -20, and that's going to shift it to be dead center in the middle. And we can do the same thing here, anchor it to the center, and we can go ahead and give it its coordinates, which we know is 40 and 5, so it's going to be -20 and -2.5. So that gives you a perfect little crosshair that's dead center in the middle of your screen, and that's cool. It's going to work. But we need to add a few more things in here, and I want to make sure you drag this out and lock it back to the top, because what we want to do is we want to activate this crosshair back and forth. So when we go into our first person mode, we want our crosshair to be visible. But when we go out of that mode, back to third person mode, we want to get rid of that crosshair. So I'll quickly go ahead and throw in a variable and show crosshairs and question mark, hit enter, default value we're not going to worry about. Let's compile and save, and now we can go back into our crosshair, and we can go into our graph so we can see what we're doing here. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these two guys up top. We're just going to work off the event tick for right now, and we're going to say cast to player _base, which is our main player system, and we're going to grab the object here and get our player character, and that's going to give us our reference that we need. And just try to make it a little bit neater. Alright, so from that we need to grab reference to that variable that we just created of show crosshairs. So now we can actually call that show. So we want to get show crosshairs, and again, here's that branch node we talked about in the last video. Find your spot, hold the B key down, left click, and create your branch node. Alright, so we're going to ask our player, are we wanting it to show the crosshair? Well, if the answer is no, we want to remove from parent, which is going to tell this guy to go away. We don't need you anymore. Get out of my sight. So I'm going to go ahead and compile and save. I'm done inside this file for the crosshair. So now I want to show the crosshair. Now I don't really need to tell it to, do I want to show the crosshair, yes or no here? I'm just going to go ahead and tell it to show it. And to do that, what I'm going to do is go back to showing you how to do custom events. So we'll type in custom event. We're going to display crosshair, and from that, again, since it was a widget that we created, all we have to do now is just create a widget, And then we want to use the class was the Crosshair widget, or Crosshair underscore W. And we want our player controller again. So get player controller, grab that here, make it halfway neat, and we want to add to viewport. So make it visible. So there, when we say, okay, show the crosshair, then it says go ahead and create this widget. So again, compile and save. You can never hit compile and save too much, I promise. So now we want to go ahead and bring that up here. We could have just created that there. It wouldn't have mattered. But just again want to show how to make a custom event. So from here, we want to call this display crosshair, and we can do that by display, and there it is. Call function is display crosshair. And then on the end of the other one, we want to go ahead and grab our alternate key, left click, drag, drop into the scene, and that gives us our set node. And we leave this unchecked because we want the answer to this to be no. We want to set it to no. And then the crosshair widget itself is going to go ahead and delete it for us. So compile and save, and let's hit play. So now, no crosshair, everything's good. We can see our character, we can check him out, we can kick his butt a little bit, we can watch his health regen, hit the V key, and oh wait, there's no crosshair. So this is where the fun of, hey, you did something wrong, fix it. Right now we're telling it to show no. So we hit V the first time. We're setting our rotation fine, and we're telling it to display the crosshair widget. So what did we do wrong? Anybody? Howdy, Skippy. And that Vertus guy is here. All right. And Eugene. Let's see everybody in. Anybody see what I might have done wrong here? We got our player controller. We got our display crosshair. We got add to viewport. We look at our widget. We got our stuff here. Everything's good in that. Yeah, this is going to be online for people to watch later. What's up, Ben? Alright, so when we set up our display crosshair, we do have our reference to our player controller, and we're telling it to use the crosshair widget, and we're telling it to add to viewport. Now, if we were to actually have used this here, and I'm going to copy that, and let's go ahead and remove it from here and paste that guy in. So we're just telling it to create that, and if we want to, we can go ahead and add this set node in here, and alternate left click to drag in, and get over there. See, I like to do some of this stuff while I'm streaming, because whenever I make mistakes, you can see that making mistakes is fine, and if you have problems, there's our widget. So now we can jump, we got our crosshair, we can see everything, we can kick our own butts, we can go back. Alright, Mickey. So yeah, now we want to have something to attack, so and be able to do something with it. So what are we going to do with our crosshair? Well, let's actually start off with, since we don't have a gun, we don't have any kind of weapons we can add in here, we don't have any real animations to go with them yet either. A quick fix to that, you can go ahead and go back to your Epic Games launcher, and if you go to the marketplace, you can click on free. Don't get distracted by all the ooh shinies and all the pretty paragons and all the other stuff going on, and you can either manually scroll to the bottom of it till you find it, or you can actually type it in, either one. But what we're going to look for is Animation Starter Pack, and you can click on that and add to project. If you don't already have it selected, then what it'll look like is it'll ask you to add it to your cart. It's free, don't worry about it, it's not going to cost you anything. So you'll be add to cart, you go to your shopping cart, and then check out, and it will go ahead and set it up for you into your library automatically for assets to add into it. So I've already got here, so I'm going to go ahead and add to project, and we wanted it to go to our project we're currently in. So we select it there, add to project, and it's going to go ahead and automatically set it up for us. So we're going to add some animations in. Right now, I'm only really concerned about one. Yeah, no, not for this tutorial. I'm not going to put a Paragon character in. Yeah, those Paragon characters look amazing. So let's make sure that it's added to the project. And sometimes, and I've noticed some issues with adding stuff in here and there. Our actual project is getting started. I'm going to make sure that I've got it in there. I actually just added it to the wrong one, so I'm going to add to project, and it'll add it directly in. So you see now we have the animation starter pack is in here. So all I'm really going to do, yes, it'll be replicated. Shut up. One thing at a time. This is still the single player portion of it. We haven't added multiplayer yet, so it's kind of hard to worry about replication in a single player portion of the tutorial. So the animation starter pack is going to give us some awesome animations that we can use later. That crouching, using a rifle, a pistol, reloading, death animations, things of that nature. Now, when we did this, we've added a new skeleton to the mix, and I don't want to use that skeleton. I don't need another skeleton. I don't need that UE4 mannequin skeleton here and down here. It's the same guy. We don't need it. We don't need multiples. So the first thing I'm going to do, since the only animation that I really need for right now, I'm going to go back to my characters folder, and I want one animation in particular, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder called animations, and open up so I can see it. I'm going to go back to my animation starter pack, and I want death. We want to kill a bot. So to get prepared for that, I'm going to left click and drag that into my animations folder, and I'm going to say copy here. Now I'm going to go back to that, and now with that one selected, I actually want to rename it. So again, you can do your F2, or you can select it manually here, or you can click on it, whatever. There's multiple ways to do this, and we're going to just call this death. We'll leave it death 1, but we'll add a AN on the end so we can just distinguish it from the rest of the ones in. We'll do a full conversion of all the animations later, but we want this to work on our skeleton. So I'm just going to right click on it, retarget. Now you can do this from the other window as well. So if you were to do that, sometimes you can get away with just swapping the skeleton in. This is working with the Unreal 4 mannequin and the Unreal 4 engine mannequin. This is not retargeting for a whole new system or anything else. So you can actually come into your animations, you can right click on it and retarget animation asset, duplicate animation assets, and retarget. We are, but we're not retargeting. But you see there's no options for us to work with. So that's just not going to work just yet. So let's come up with a way of doing that. So we go to our mesh folder, and this is going to seem a little bit more complicated, but it's really, really easy. You go into your light blue one right here, that's UE4 mannequin skeleton. Just double click on it, bring it up, and click on your retargeting manager so that you have this window here. Select rig, select humanoid rig, and hit save and close it. So all we need to do in this particular instance, so in the same thing, we have our mesh here. We're not worried about that one. We need to go to our mannequin folder and go to our character folder inside there and mesh. And this is the one we are using. And again, all we have to do is select humanoid rig and hit save. So now they're kind of match each other. and I can go back again. And there's a lot of back and forth here, but don't worry. Right click, retarget animation, duplicate animation asset and retarget. Now we have one. So we're going to select this one right here. As we mouse over it, we can see the path. We know this is the one that's in the folder that we want. So to make sure that we put it where we want it, I'm going to go ahead and go to the change. I'm going to select my characters folder and the animations folder that we created. Select OK. And this one says Death 1. We want to make it different, so we can actually put a prefix in there. And I'm just going to put BB underscore in front of it, you know, beef love bar, just so we can go ahead and just throw something on there to distinguish it quickly from there. If there was like the third person character or whatever, you want to replace something with something, you can do that here. If you wanted to put it afterwards, like instead of just putting the BB underscore there, we could also add in a underscore A at the end. So now that we got everything set up, we can go ahead and hit retarget. It's going to go ahead and do that. See, it added our BB underscore to our death 1 underscore A. And now we have a new animation for our character dying. Yep. Alright, so we can go ahead and close that up. What's up, dude? So now we have a death animation set, ready to use with our new character. And for now, we no longer need that animation starter pack. We'll end up using it later. Yeah, I actually slept for about 3 hours. So we're going to kill something, but we don't have anything to kill yet. So we need a simple bot. And we'll just start off with, go ahead and hit save all to make sure everything's saved. We know we got our player base and we have our red man. Well, we need an NPC or AI character. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder in our characters. And I'm just going to make it NPC for non-player characters. And then what I can do to start off with is I want to left click on my player base, drag it into the NPC folder and copy here. Go to that folder and I'm going to rename that guy to NPC underscore base. And then we're going to go into it. We have all this really cool stuff that we're working on. Select all of it, delete, get rid of everything out of there. And he doesn't need cameras, so we're going to delete that. We're going to delete the camera boom, FPS camera. We don't need the show crosshair, but we do need the health and we do need dead. So compile and save. And let's go ahead and drag him up to here. Now that we've created it, let's make sure we got the mesh set up correctly. We're using the white character. Can you create a new blueprint and create? You can do it that way to create a whole new pawn, but I already had the health variable set up in my player and the dead variable. If I had other variables that I needed by doing this, they're already stored there, so I don't have to replicate that again over and over and over again. So we got our base character, and for now what I'm going to do is throw him into the scene, and we're just going to stand him up over here on the wall. And you see he was below the ground, but whenever I let go, it goes ahead and brings him up. So I want to turn him around, and I can either do it manually, just type in the rotation that I want, or I can grab a hold of him and grab the rotation and spin his butt around. So now we've got, yeah, two guys standing there. And if we hit play, we can walk over. Hey, what's up? You can see him. He's just going to do his, hey, Kleiner, welcome back. You can see that he's doing their, they're doing their basic animation. And if we hit V, we can aim at them, but we can't do anything yet. Now, let's start setting up a basic shooting system. Even though we don't have a gun model, we're not attaching animations to it. We're just going to, I don't know, cover the basics and shoot something. We're going to pretend the AI over here is Skippy, and I'm sorry, sorry. So how can we shoot something. If we don't have a gun, well, let's go ahead and start looking at something that might be a little bit more complex, but it's not that bad to work with. And I'm probably going to screw it up because I'm dyslexic on some things, so I'm going to put things backwards, so bear with me on that. I'm going to go into our blueprints folder for our characters. I'm going to go back to my player base, and all this stuff is awesome. And you know, we can leave this here, and to know what we're doing with this was our view swap. I'm going to go ahead and highlight everything, hit the C key, which is going to give me a comment, and write a comment here. And I want to go ahead and change the color. Let's make it a nice blue color so we know that you know, separate. If we at a glance we know if we were looking for view, it's blue. Okay, that's cheesy. Display crosshairs, we want to comment that if we want to. So whenever you're actually even zoomed all the way out, you can still see a tag above it and see what it is, so that you can kind of pan back and forth and find stuff as you need it. This makes organization a little bit easier. And I'm going to go ahead and throw our event begin play up here as well. Alright, now let's get set up, and we already created the input action event for our primary attack. So I'm going to right click and start typing in primary, and so there's our primary attack. And this is going to operate a function whenever we click the left mouse button. So what should we do, guys? How are we going to simulate shooting? Well, we can drag off of here, and let's make a line trace by channel. Line trace by objects is good too for a lot of reasons, but we're not going to get into the, you know, the nitpicky stuff on that, because you can actually use both almost the same way, and multi-trace and all that too. But here's what we want to do is, before we start adding things in, I'm going to open up our draw time and draw debug type. I'm going to do for duration, but I'm going to set it to 0.5, so we got us a good pew pew laser going on here. So everything's good on the rest of our settings. We need to go ahead and set our start point and our end point, so we can set the range how far our laser is going to work. And we're just going to play some laser tag. So to get our start to end point, I want to go ahead and get our FPS camera, left click on it, and just drag it right into the scene. And I want to get two values from that. And the first one is get world location. That's going to get the actual location of where the camera is located. And we're going to drag that off to our start location. Now I'm going to need to move this over just a hair to fill in one more thing. And again, from our FPS camera, we're going to get our get forward vector. And this is our forward movement, or the intended direction we're going to be going towards. So with that, a couple values. And for this instance, I'm just going to go ahead and set the range that I want this thing to work with. So I'm going to come off of this, and we can type in vector, and we're going to do vector times float. Now, you can actually assign a value to this. I use that for making a custom controlled tool that I use, but you know, we're not going to talk about me playing with my tool. We're going to actually set a value of, we're just going to set it for, oh, well, let's say 5,000. That's the distance in units our laser is going to fire. It's more than enough for where we are right now, so we'll get by just fine. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we got a little bit more room, and we're going to come off of this one right here, and we're going to say vector plus vector. So now we can do our addition. Grab this guy, we're going to add 5,000 to our vector. Then we're going to come over here and drag that to our end point. So now we've set our start, our end, we're not worried about trace complex. Everything's good to go. If we want to change the colors after it's hit, You can worry about that later. Let's go ahead and compile and save. And now I'm going to make some other changes, because when we go into play right now, we can shoot that laser and it's shooting out of our eyes. So, and that's fine, but I don't want it to work whenever I'm in third person mode, because we don't have a crosshair. So now if we look at it, when we fire, we're aiming directly at our crosshair, and we're getting that little short laser blast and it's going away. So cool. So let's set it up so that it does not work when we're in this mode. We don't want it to work, because we can't adjust our elevation right now on it. So let's go ahead and hit escape, go back to our player base, and we want to set up a condition. We want to say, can we fire? So let's add another variable in really quickly, and can shoot. And let's go ahead and again compile and save, and we need that magical branch, but this time I'm just going to drag from the pressed line, since it's already got a line there, and I'm going to let go and start typing in branch. It's going to fix it in line and keep it working. It's not going to unplug anything. So now we want to grab this guy and attach it to the branch, and we need to find our view changer thingy. So if we come back here to our view change, we want to first off alternate left click, drag it in here, and now when we go back to that mode, we can shoot no. So let's actually grab this whole thing and move it over just a hair, and then we're going to grab a little bit more space, and we're going to do that here and set can shoot to true or yes. But what's going to happen is, well, it's not going to work correctly, and I'll show you what I mean. Is let's compile and save, go in here and play, and now it works, and now it doesn't. Sometimes you can have some confusion if there's a problem later on down the line where it's automatically activated and you can shoot right off the get-go. Then you could always come back to your event begin play. In this case, it's actually working. So I expected failure and it didn't fail on me. So we can't shoot our laser beam while we're in this mode right here. So okay, hit the V key, we can aim, and bang, we just hit our guy. Or did we? There's no green going in behind him. I know you can't see because it's a short, quick laser. I'm going to hit save all, because even though we're only working in player base, it's changing the red man as well. So what we need to do here is, since we're doing this, let's see if we're actually hitting our guy. So our on hit, you can come off from it and break hit result. And from that, we want to verify if we're hitting him or not. And I know that we're not, but I just want you to see what it is. We're going to drag off of here. We're going to say print text. And from that print text, we want to bring in hit actor. And we're going to type in to text. And then we can connect the return value to here. So it's going to tell us the name of whatever we hit. And so you can see, if I aim at the wall, it's going to say wall. It tells what it is, the frozen room, the pain pad. But we shoot our guy, it's going right through him. Not going to work. Why is it not hitting him? Because he's not really there. And for now, we're going to do this in the NPC base. You come in here, click on your mesh, and well, he's there. Why can't we hit him? Come down to collision. You'll see your physics material. We don't really have one. Generate overlap events. Well, we might need that soon. And our collision presets, it says character mesh. We're going to go ahead and change that to block all. And then compile and save. And we're only really worried about this for our NPC, because we're going to start shooting him. They're not going to be shooting us just yet. So now if we shoot him, you'll see NPC base 2, NPC base 2. So now we're shooting and we can actually hit him. So awesome. let's kill that sucker. Alright, how are we going to kill him? Well, first off, we got to give him some health. We already did that because we copied it from our other character. His health is set to 100. Awesome. We want our laser beam to actually, let's get rid of that. We want to cause damage. We want to do, we'll say, we're going to do 50 damage per shot. Shoot him twice, he dies. How about that? Who cares? They're just target dummies. They don't move. We're about moving them in the next video. How we're going to do that is our hit actor. Well, again, we can cast off of this, and let's say if we go to cast to NPC base, perhaps, and grab our hit actor, connect it to there, and when we hit our hit actor, or being the NPC, we want to get a reference to our health, and we want the health from him, not us. So we want to make sure we're dragging it out from cast to NPC base. We want to get our health, and then we want to grab another one for set health. And what we're going to do is connect our executable pins together, and we want to set our health to our health minus, so we're doing float minus float, and we're going to do 50 damage and then link that up to that. So we're going to set our health to minus 50 from what we had before, and that's going to go ahead and give us that condition. So let's go back into our NPC base. We have nothing. So let's go ahead and throw our event tick inside, and we want to set up something to happen whenever we do this. We can actually look in here also on our hit actor, cast to NPC base. We can do other things as well. We can actually add the explosion whenever we actually do that, or we can set the explosion to be the sound of our gunfire. Well, that sounds like a fun idea. Hey, it's fun to me, shut up. So every time we press that left mouse button, we want to shoot. We're going to make a shooting sound. Right now, we're not going to use an emitter because, well, we don't want our eye setting off something. But if you want to add in a sound, all you'd have to do is just drag off of it and play sound at location. We'll grab these guys and just slide them back a little bit. Let's make room for our play sound. If we want to be good, we can grab our get world location from the FPS camera, connect that to the location, select sound, and right now that's not going to be authentic because we're shooting a laser, but we're going to make a gunshot sound. Our cheap little one we're going to use is explosion cue, like we used on the pain pad. So it's going to play that whenever we actually fire our laser. So nothing, but now we're aiming, and there we got a little cheap and cheesy gunshot sound. So let's continue doing our damage thing here. So what we've done is we've told our player to make a shooting sound, fire a laser beam. They contradict each other, but and then to do 50 damage every time we hit our player or NPC base. So how are we going to make them die? Well, we need to get our health. So we're going to grab reference to our health. We're going to get a branch node. We're going to ask, is our health, and we can't connect directly to there, so is our health, and we know it's a float, is it less than 0? Well, instead of asking if it's less than 0, we can actually say, is it equal to or less than 0? So we can type in float, and we want to know, is it less than or equal to 0? Because if something happens and we shoot them 3 times and it takes more than that, okay, cool. So if his health is equal to or less than 0, then we want to set is dead. Now to test this to see if it's working correctly, we want to set is dead as true because we're probably going to need that variable later, and then we could actually just get rid of him so that we can test to see if he's working. So we can type in destroy. Destroy everything. No, just destroy the actor. So let's compile and save and see if that actually works. Bang, shot him once. Bang, shot him twice, and he goes away. Shot him once, shot him twice, he goes away. So we don't want to make him disappear just yet. So let's actually give him that animation to make him fall over. And honestly, let's go ahead and grab both of them. And I want to grab both of our characters and drag them forward so they have a little bit of room to fall over dead. Alright, so let's go back into our NPC base. And we don't want to destroy actor just yet, so let's push it off from there. Get us some room. And then we want to play animation with the mesh reference. So we're going to go ahead and say, okay, let's play the animation. The animation that we want to play is the one that we created earlier. So we know that it started with the BB, the way we made it. So this is the right one. It's going to play that animation. But we need to kind of know something ahead of time. If we look at our animation folder and mouse over it, we can see that it takes the sequence length of 2.06666667. Well, we want to get it close. So we're just going to round it to 2 on this situation. We know this animation takes 2 seconds. So let's go ahead and add in a delay. And we're going to change that delay to 2 seconds. So now we want to do the death animation, wait 2 seconds, and then destroy his behind. But will it work? Will the new Beefalo Bart actually get something to work on the first try? Of course not. He just disappeared. He locked in that position. But wait, the animation works. Why didn't this work? Well, let's go back into our NPC base and let's go ahead and get rid of our destroy actor. So let's see if the actual thing is working. So let's go to compile and save and try it again. And he's going to a different animation. Explain to me that. I told it to use BB Death. BB1A Death. Why? Because Unreal Engine 4. We are using the correct mesh. We're using the right animation. So if we find that BB_death and actually look at that animation, we can see that animation is actually working. So your guess is as good as mine as to why when we tell it to play this animation, it's playing a completely different animation. This is the kind of stuff that, you know, sometimes Unreal Engine 4 for me, it doesn't like me. So it does absolutely random stuff. That is totally a completely different animation from what I'm telling it to do. Alright, this is normally where you would cut the video and then come back and magically it's working. But I just wanted you to see that sometimes things happen. And like this right here, we're playing this animation and we're telling it to play our death animation. And our death animation is this one. And it works the way we want it to. But it is for sure definitely not playing that correct animation. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to tell it to play an animation that doesn't even fit the skeleton. It looks to me like it's playing aim space hip or something of that nature. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. I'm going to go ahead and remake it because who knows. I've only been having these kind of issues since 4.1.9. So I want to play an animation with a mesh reference. And this is the same thing we just did before. We want to select the animation as being BB Death 1A. We want to compile and save. Even though this exact same thing we just did, it was still playing, and is still playing, the wrong animation. Absolutely don't get it. I'm going to blame this on Skippy. Somehow or another, it's got to be his fault. I mean, I'll go ahead and I'm going to take the is dead out and set that just directly in here. I'm telling it to play an animation, and it is playing a completely different animation. And you guys can actually see that I have it set to BB underscore death underscore 1 underscore A. Compile and save. This is on our NPC base. This is the NPC base. Everything else is working as intended. And we see that it's right there. Working lovely as a death animation. But as soon as we go in here and bang bang, shoot him dead, it's doing a completely different animation. Don't want to tell it to do the wrong animation. It's attached to a whole different skeleton. And this, in theory, should not work. Well, I gotta blame it on you, Skippy. Why else would something that obviously should be working isn't working? See, we told it to use an animation that doesn't belong to that skeleton, so it doesn't know how to act, so it just goes into a default Y pose. So I'm actually going to delete this animation that we created earlier. Force delete. I want it out of here completely. Going to go back to my animation starter pack and look at Death 2. Now, for some reason, my Death 1 has a slightly grayed out appearance, different because we've opened it up and changed the view slightly. But I'm going to go ahead and select Death 3 this time. So I'm going to right click on it. I am going to retarget animation asset, duplicate animation asset and retarget, and I'm going to select the UE4 mannequin that we want to use. I'm going to change the folder of which it's going into, which is our characters folder, animations, select OK, and then I'm not going to change anything else on it. I'm just going to retarget it. It's going to go to the here. I'm going to hit F2, call this dead underscore bot. I want it totally different from everything else. I'm going to double click on it, make sure it works. And there it is. It's showing it. I'm going to leave it selected, and then I'm going to make sure that I go back into the player character, which I didn't think I closed, or the NPC base in the NPC folder. And I'm going to drop down from this list right here and go back to my animations. Left click on Deadbot, click on the arrow here to insert it, compile, save, and let's go shoot our bot one more time. And again, it's doing completely the wrong animation, and he's having a seizure. Okay. I've done this 100 times and never had a bit of trouble with it doing the basic animation this way. I'm checking its health. If its health is 0, then we're going to kill it. We're going to play the animation. The animation works. We're playing the correct animation. It's non-looping. Everything is done in a simple fashion the way that it always works. So since my Unreal Engine is deciding to hate me, I'm just going to go ahead and restart the engine, and I'll test it, and then in the next video, since I want to keep these no more than right at the 1 hour mark, and we're at 59 minutes and 37 seconds. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get ready to end this one now. I'm going to go back into the NPC base, and just for right now, I'm going to add in my delay of, we're just going to do the 2 seconds again, and I'm going to tell it to destroy actor so that it goes ahead and removes him from the map. And there, and compile and save. One more final test run, and then we're going to get out of here. Let's go back to our first person mode. Bang, bang, and then gone. Bang, bang, and then gone. And I'll try to figure out why it's doing that wrong animation. Alrighty, let's hit our V key. There we go. We're back into it again. Back in. We can add effects for whenever it actually hits and stuff like that too. But we'll continue that on to another video. Alright guys, thanks for watching. We'll pick up after a break.